All right, let's dive in. Today we're taking a deep dive into authentic Buddha Dhamma, and I gotta say, this book we're looking at, Remove the Blinds of the Eye and Gaze Upon the Truth. Well, it promises some pretty wild stuff.
It does. It's pretty controversial, claiming to uncover a version of Buddha Dhamma that's been hidden for over 1,000 years.
Yep.
And to understand how that's even possible, we need to go back in time.
Back in time. Oh, okay, like a historical mystery. All right, I'm in. Tell me more.
Well, the book mentions this fire at the Mahavihara library. This was like a major place where they kept all these Buddhist texts. And it raises the question, was this fire deliberate? Was it set on purpose to get rid of these original Hela Atuva texts?
Hela Atuva. Okay, you gotta break that down for me. That's a new one.
Think of Hela Atuva as these ancient commentaries on the Buddhist teachings. They were written in the Hela language, which was spoken in Sri Lanka. And the book suggests that these texts, these Hela Atuva texts, might have a more accurate representation of Buddha Dhamma than what we have access to today.
So there's a chance that, like, a piece of the puzzle has been missing this whole time. That's fascinating. Kind of unsettling, to be honest.
Yeah, it really challenges the conventional narrative, and a lot of it hinges on the language that the Buddha himself spoke, Magadhi.
Okay. Magadhi. Yeah, that rings a bell, but remind me why that's so important.
Imagine trying to understand a joke where the punchline, like, depends on a specific tone of voice. Now imagine that challenge, but with, core Buddhist concepts. Magadhi isn't just words. It's tonal. It's layered with meaning.
Okay, so a simple translation might miss some of the subtleties.
Exactly. The book argues that translating Magadhi using just conventional methods, like word for word, it can lead to distortions. It highlights 4 dimensions of meaning that get lost in the process: artha, dhamma, visuddhi, and patsamvita.
Whoa. Okay, 4 dimensions. That's kind of blowing my mind already. Can you break those down for me?
Think of it like this. Artha is how the teachings apply to our lives, like the practical stuff. Dhamma delves into the universal laws governing cause and effect. Niruthi, that explores the roots of words, their definitions, kind of like etymology. And Patisampita, well, that offers a deeper, like an analytical understanding of the concepts.
So each word is like a multifaceted gem, kind of, reflecting all these different aspects of truth. And we've just been looking at it through a plain, one-dimensional lens.
That's a great way to put it. The book actually uses the Sanghabheda Sutta as an example. It shows how translating Magadhi without considering these dimensions, it can lead to misinterpretations. We could be missing crucial nuances in the Buddhist teachings because of how they've been translated.
Okay, wait a second. If this book is right, then everything I thought I knew about Buddhism could be wrong. That's a little unsettling. You're saying that what millions of people practice today, that might not even be what the Buddha intended.
That's exactly what the book is arguing. It claims that a lot of what we consider Buddhism today, especially Mahayana Buddhism, is heavily influenced by later religious traditions. And it might not accurately reflect the Buddha's original teachings, what it calls Theravada.
Whoa. Okay, things are getting serious now. So what are the main differences between what this book considers original Buddhism and what we know as Mahayana Buddhism?
There's some pretty fundamental differences in understanding. Like, for example, Theravada emphasizes that anyone can achieve Arahant Buddhahood in this lifetime, through their practice, their effort. But Mahayana suggests that only Sammasambuddha is possible, the highest level of enlightenment, and that too, not in this lifetime. Quite a difference.
And that's a huge EE difference. Like, it changes the whole game. What else? What else is different?
Well, Theravada really stresses personal effort, like liberation through your own practice. Mahayana, though, focuses on the ideal of the bodhisattva, who delays their own enlightenment to help all beings achieve liberation. It's like working towards everyone's enlightenment together.
Interesting. 2 very different paths. So if this book is right, we might be missing the point entirely. What happened? Like, how did things get so off track?
Well, that brings us back to that fire at the Mahavihara library. The book suggests that this fire might have been a deliberate attempt to, wipe out those original Hela Atuva texts, effectively suppressing a version of Buddha Dhamma that some didn't want people to know.
Wait, are we talking conspiracy theory here, like a historical cover-up? This is getting intense.
Whether it was intentional or not, the fire, it led to the loss of many, many important texts. The book claims that the Pali Atuva texts, the ones that were written later, like Buddhaghosa's famous Visuddhi Magga, they introduced foreign concepts and they distorted the original teachings.
foreign concepts, like
Well, the book gives an example. It
right.
points to Kasina meditation as a practice where you focus on visual objects. The book claims that the Buddha himself rejected this as a path to enlightenment. It suggests these additions might be from other spiritual traditions that were around at the time.
So what you're saying is someone might have deliberately erased the original teachings and replaced them with something else. That's a pretty bold claim.
It's a provocative theory. The book really wants us to question everything we thought we knew about Buddhist history. It asks us to consider if what we accept as truth might be a carefully constructed, narrative that's designed to control how we understand Buddha Dhamma.
And at the heart of this historical mystery is Buddhaghosa, right? This guy who many consider to be a great Buddhist scholar.
Exactly. Buddhaghosa is revered in many Buddhist traditions. He translated many Buddhist texts into Pali, the language most commonly used in Buddhist scriptures today. But this book paints him in a pretty controversial light.
Okay, so how does Buddhaghosa fit into this whole hidden truth story?
The book argues that despite his scholarship, Buddhaghosa he was a Brahmin, a member of the priestly caste in Hinduism, and it suggests that he brought his own philosophical biases to his work. That he inserted his own interpretations, his own ideas into the Hela Atuva texts, which further obscured the original teachings.
Hold on. Are we saying that the guy who's practically considered a saint in Buddhism might have actually distorted the very teachings he was translating?
That's exactly what this book is suggesting. It's asking us to be critical, even of the most respected figures in Buddhist history. Maybe we've been clinging to a version of the teachings that's more about tradition than truth.
This is seriously shaking up my understanding of Buddhism. Are we worshiping the messenger instead of the message? This is mind-blowing stuff. But if what we're practicing isn't the real deal, then what is the authentic path to Nibbana according to this book?
That's where things get even more interesting. This book offers a very different perspective on the path to liberation. It's not about blind faith or rituals or even waiting for a future Buddha to save us. It's about taking responsibility for our own enlightenment. And it all starts with understanding a fundamental principle.
All right, I'm on the edge of my seat. We'll have to dive into that in part 2.
It's all about personal responsibility, this vision of the path to Nibbana. It's not about relying on, rituals or just waiting for someone else to do the hard work for you. It's about understanding how our minds actually work and then, taking action to break free from suffering.
Mm-hmm.
Right here, right now.
Okay, I love that. No spiritual freebies. You got to put in the work. So where do we even start? What's that core principle we need to get?
The book really, really emphasizes understanding and applying this law of cause and effect. It's called Hitupala in Magadhi. It's about realizing that everything, every action, every thought, every choice, it creates these ripples that shape our reality.
Okay, yeah. Makes sense. It's kind of like the idea of karma, right? What you sow is what you reap.
Yeah.
But how is this book's approach, different?
It goes deeper than that. It's not just good actions lead to good outcomes or, bad actions lead to bad outcomes. It's more about understanding the subtle ways our minds create the conditions for our experiences. It's about seeing the patterns, like the craving and the aversion that fuel our suffering.
So it's not just about what we do, it's about understanding the WHY behind our actions.
Exactly. And once we understand that, we can actually start to shift those patterns. That's where practices like Anasathi and Anapanasana come in. They're key to the authentic path, according to this book.
More Magadhi. I'm starting to get the hang of this ancient language. What do those terms mean?
Well, think of Anasathi like a mental bouncer. It kicks out those negative thoughts before they can cause any real trouble. It's about recognizing those unwholesome mental states like anger, jealousy, greed. You got to see them as they arise and disrupt them before they can really take root.
Okay, so it's about being mindful, being aware of our thoughts, and then nipping those negative vibes in the bud. I can see how that would be helpful.
Absolutely. It's about breaking free from that cycle of craving and aversion, that just keeps us bound to suffering. And that's where Anapanasana comes in. It's about cultivating this insightful awareness. It's about seeing things as they truly are without the distortion of our desires and fears.
So Anasathi is like clearing out the mental clutter, and then Anapanasana is like polishing the mirror so we can actually see clearly.
Got it. It's about developing that clear-seeing wisdom,
Mm-hmm.
That allows us to understand that reality is impermanent and interconnected.
Right, that makes sense. But how do those practices, like how do they actually lead to Nibbana? It sounds like a pretty long journey.
It's definitely a journey, but it's a journey filled with, these incredible insights, these transformations along the way. By purifying the mind, by developing wisdom, we gradually free ourselves from the grip of ignorance and suffering. It's a gradual process of awakening to the true nature of reality.
So it's not about reaching some far-off destination. It's more about transforming our experience of the journey itself. That's a powerful idea. But there's one more term you mentioned earlier, something about existential debt. That sounds a little ominous.
That's the concept of Naya Vinaya. In Magadhi, it refers to this existential debt that we accrue through our actions, like the karmic baggage we carry around. In Vinaya, well, in this context, it means liberating ourselves from those debts.
Okay, existential debt. So it's kind of like carrying around like emotional baggage from like past relationships, only on a cosmic scale.
Yeah. That's a good analogy. It's recognizing that our actions, especially those harmful ones, they create a kind of karmic debt that can keep us bound to suffering. But by understanding Naya Vinaya, we can start making choices that liberate us from those burdens.
So it's not just about cleaning up our mental act. It's also about making amends for past actions and then like choosing a path that leads to more freedom.
Exactly. It's about seeing how everything's connected and how our actions, they don't just affect us, they affect the world around us.
So if I'm understanding this correctly, the authentic path to Nibbana, according to this book, it's about understanding cause and effect, right? It's about purifying the mind through practices like Anusati and Anupassana, and it's about liberating ourselves from existential debt by making wise choices. Whew. That sounds like a lot of work.
It's definitely a path that requires commitment, it requires effort, but the book, it reminds us that it's a path that's available to everyone. No matter your background, no matter your circumstances. It's not about waiting for some future Buddha to save us. It's about cultivating the wisdom and the compassion within ourselves to break free from suffering.
That's empowering. It takes the pressure off waiting for some external force to come and fix everything. But if this book's claims are true, it means that much of what's been passed down as Buddhism for centuries, it might be off the mark. That's a pretty big pill to swallow for a lot of people.
It definitely challenges the status quo. It asks us to be critical thinkers, to question what we've always believed, our traditions, and to be open to the possibility that there might be more to the story than we've been told.
Yeah, it's like realizing the map you've been using your whole life, it might be leading you in the wrong direction. So if what this book says is true, what does it mean for our understanding of Buddhism? And what does it mean for our own spiritual journeys?
That's a question, that each of us has to wrestle with. This deep dive, it's really just scratched the surface of these complex and controversial ideas.
Right. A lot to think about. So where do we go from here? What's the next step for someone who's totally captivated by this deep dive?
I think the most important thing is to keep exploring. Delve deeper into the source material and form your own conclusions. This isn't about just, blindly accepting everything the book says. It's about opening our minds to new possibilities.
Yeah, it's like we've been given this new lens to look at something we thought we already knew, and suddenly we're like seeing it in a whole new light.
Exactly. And it's really up to each of us to decide what feels true to us, what resonates, what maybe challenges our existing beliefs. This deep dive, it's just a starting point.
Right. It's not about throwing out everything we've learned. It's more about approaching our understanding of Buddha Dhamma with a fresh perspective.
It's about asking those tough questions.
Yeah.
Like what if some of what we've been taught doesn't really align with the Buddha's original intentions?
Yeah.
What if there's a more direct path to liberation than we even realized?
Yeah. That's pretty radical stuff to consider. But even if we don't agree with everything this book claims, it's definitely made me more curious. It's made me want to dig deeper, question my assumptions and approach my own practice with more purpose.
That's the beauty of this whole journey. There's always more to learn, more to explore, more to uncover. It's not about, finding all the answers. It's about embracing the process of questioning and seeking and growing.
I love that. It takes the pressure off having to be, right all the time, and allows us to be more open to different perspectives, different interpretations.
Exactly. It's about cultivating that beginner's mind, that sense of wonder and openness, that lets us see things with fresh eyes.
So for our listener, who's been on this incredible deep dive with us, what's the one thing you hope they take away from all of this?
I hope this deep dive has empowered them to question, to explore, and to approach their own understanding of Buddha Dhamma with a critical and discerning mind. The journey to liberation, it's a personal one, and it starts with taking ownership of our beliefs and our practices.
That's beautifully said. It's been an incredible journey, exploring these controversial ideas and uncovering this potential hidden history of Buddhism. I know I'll never look at my own practice the same way again.
And remember, the journey doesn't end here. This is just the beginning of a much deeper exploration. Keep questioning, keep seeking, and keep diving deep into the heart of Buddha Dhamma.
And who knows what other hidden treasures we might find along the way. Until next time, may your path be filled with wisdom, compassion, and the courage to seek truth.